Welcome to another Journey of an Aesthete. I am your host, Mitch Hampton, and this is me sitting at my piano, altering my theme song to include a more famous song by, I think it was written by Neil Sedaka for Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. I don't remember. I don't know. Any event, it's associated, of course, with one of our topics of discussion today. I'm calling it universal adjacent, or adjacent universality, meaning that it's not quite universal, the kind of culture and art we're discussing today, but it purports to be, and it was intended to be, by its commercial creators for the largest, widest audience conceivable in those years. And of course, I'm talking about the era, the analog era at its end, I'd say 1967 to about 1992. Carson's last show is 91, I think, with BetteMidler, Robin Williams, and some other people. Jim Curry, I think, was on that show. And we're going to contrast two different styles. We're going to not just talk about the late great Johnny Carson, but we're going to talk about some of the innovations by Mr. David Letterman in the 80s and 90s and to the early 00s. So that's kind of what this show's about. And again, it's all about aesthetics, and this is episode 18, and we're going to, I promised, I think in our last episode, I was going to talk about very widely distributed things, commercial things. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a close reading approach, which means we're going to be watching 8-minute, 10-minute clips. And I'm not going to talk during it, except to point out some things that seem noteworthy or important, because I want us to do a close reading of these works of art, these objects, with the kind of attention that I give the Rabbit novels, or that I would give Portrait of a Lady by Henry James, right? If we're dealing with chapter 4. Isabel Archer and Madame Merle are having their discussion or argument, or discussion, as Archie Bunker would have said, on All in the Family, about what is selfhood, what is authenticity, which they discuss in that chapter. We're going to have to pay close attention to Henry James' syntax, his locution, the way he represents these two women in a scene, closely looking at the novel. So today we're going to have to be closely looking at television in those years, network television. And as always, on All About Aesthetics, I discuss what I'm wearing. Up front, getting my chair here. This jacket or coat, sport jacket really. No, it's not a sport coat. It's really like kind of a blazer. It's in midnight navy, and it's vintage. It's from 1975, and I got it sometime in the mid 00s from one of my favorite stores in Boston at that time, called Bobby's of Boston, which was an African American run vintage, mostly menswear accessory store. And Bobby Garnett, who passed, I attended his service, he passed a few years back, would supply clothes to such shows as Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire. I know he sent things to the actors in Boardwalk Empire at that time. Anyhow, I bought this jacket, and it's in a fabric that we're going to discuss. Again, I have my book from 89. You can look it up. There's a family of cloth and wool, worsted wool, that is intended for fall and winter wear because it's so heavy and hard wearing. And basically you're dealing with cloth that's mostly solid. That is, it's not a pattern, it's a solid color, usually in a nondescript color like this, or a black, or maybe tan in the summer. But because it's a solid, it's not a pattern, you want to, the weavers want to have visual interest. So they come up with diagonal and twills, and the technical term, well, there's several technical terms. One is called cavalry twill. Another is called covercoat. Covercoat, which is a little heavier. And it's not just used in overcoats, it's used in trousers. Another one is called covert. So there's all these terms, cavalry and covert. These come from military wear, British, the British Empire, British clothing, and it's used in both sports clothing and dress clothing, as I'm doing here. And if I stand up and you look at what I have for trousers, it's more or less the same cloth. And so, you know, I'm going to have to retire this clothing fairly soon because winter's ending. This weekend is spring forward of the clocks. Alas and alack are sticking us the clocks an hour ahead. And so the weather's going to start to change, and I'm going to put these clothes I'm wearing today in the back seat of the closet or the rear of the closet, and bring out some different clothes. I'm wearing a shirt it's bespoke I had made for myself. The tie is fairly recent. It's Irish wool silk blend. Also got that. It's a paisley. It's one of the wilder ties I own. You know, the rest is fairly straightforward. But anyhow, this is kind of what, if you see up close, that's kind of an example there. Cover coat. It's an interesting book. I'm glad I had this book. I have a fairly decent collection of menswear books, objects that take up volume and mass. And this is one of them. And so I don't quite know how to proceed, that is, in what order, because I know we're going to look at a lot of Johnny, some Letterman, and we're going to look at certain kinds of episodes to try to demonstrate what I would call stylistic changes over a small period of time. And by stylistic changes, I mean styles of presenting a guest, styles of relating to a large broadcast audience in network television, styles of humor, when humor is used, how it's used, what the object of the humor is, what the, you know, jokes about money and sex, of course, are very common then, more so than now, actually. We're in an interesting time. I remember I was discussing the current climate of fictional artistic representation style, and I said that we were in a time that was not as maybe blunt or as candid as the 70s or 80s. And of course, anytime you make a statement like that, it's subject to immediate change, as in this year's Sean Baker's wonderful film Anora, winning the Oscars. And that's a movie that reintroduces, for the first time in a long time, a candor and frankness about human sexuality in a very big film. It's an independent film, of course, but still. Styles come and go, and what's acceptable in one era may not be acceptable in another era. What's acceptable in an era might disappear for a very long time and reemerge from a Sean Baker or from someone else in a different form. But all the stuff we're dealing with today is, you know, it's network TV. So it's ABC, CBS, NBC, mainly NBC, the three networks. And it's the product of people, comedians, writers, who made it their artistic practice to try to, again, relate to as many people as humanly possible. Not to offend anyone, if they could help it. You could call it middle of the road, mainstream. And within that, those styles of what I'm talking about, the people we're looking at today were masters of it. By which I mean they were the Horowitz, Art Tatum, Yasuhiro Ozu, Steven Spielberg, if you will, Hitchcock of appealing to large amounts of people. And so we're gonna look at that. I'm gonna do a little reading though first. I'm gonna read from Chuck Klosterman's book on the 90s. Return to Klosterman because he has some stuff in here on television. And it'd be fun to start with the written word. I want to ask Laurie, how is the sound? Laurie Strickland, our producer, does tireless work on the podcast. And I just want to make sure that things sound okay. Excellent. I'm going to read from the Copyright. The Copyright Act of 1976, our bicentennial year. Bicentennial Copyright Act of 1976. This video that we're doing now, that you are now watching, includes copyrighted material used for the purposes of commentary and criticism, which falls under the fair use doctrine of copyright law. No copyright infringement is intended. And that's important because we're going to be looking at a lot of material today and reading from some material. So I located a part of this book, The 90s, which I did a book lunch on the 90s last year, a couple years ago. We're going to return to it. Mark Fowler. Now, Mark Fowler was the FCC commissioner, the Federal Communications, one of those organizing bodies that now is being, I think, torn down, or one of the many things being decimated, I'm sure now, and they're replacing all these people with a bunch of young 20-somethings to coming in and whatever. But anyhow, that's what's going on now. But these are these institutions that meant to regulate content by, sex and violence, nudity, those kinds of things, sensitive, controversial material. The living room television was still, in the words, and here it is, Mark Fowler. Mark Fowler says, television is, this is his words. He's literally going to say this. It's just another appliance. It's like an oven, or it's like a toaster with pictures, quote unquote. So that's what Mark Fowler said. You turned it on and watched whatever it gave you. So not only are these show creators or artists trying to appeal to a lot of people, or as many people as they can, they're working in an environment in which there's not any competition in that time slot, in that space, in that day, or those hours. And there's scarcely any competition for what they're giving you. So they just got a spot and they got to fill it with something. So that in itself, those two factors are going to, in my view, dictate a lot of the nature of what will be created. And dictate a lot of the nature of what comedians will want to write or not, right? It's whatever gives you. And the level of exposure is very high. And the expectations are always very low. So you just put it sitting in this chair here, and we're going to sit here and we're going to look at something. It's a little bit like one of the episodes of Seinfeld where the gang all gets together and watches Melrose Place. And they all get together and they do this. They move their head up and down like animated characters, and Michael Richards and Jerry Seinfeld and Julie Dreyfus sit in these chairs, and then it's like appointment television. They get together and they're going to watch Grant Show and company on Melrose Place, because after all, what are they going to do? They're going to watch Melrose Place, or they're going to go out and watch Schindler's List at the theaters, or they're going to go watch a the Knicks or something, New York, Mets or something. They're gonna. What it means is that there's a few things you can do, and that's one of the things you can do is sit in your house and watch Melrose Place or the OC or Beverly Hills 90210 or today Severance and so on. So that's kind of it. That's kind of the infrastructure of what we're talking about. The level of expectations were low. It was a source of entertainment when no better entertainment was available, which was most of the time. This is a wonderful book. I mean, one of the things I like so much about Clausewitz in the 90s is the way he writes about, extremely topical things. Like, for example, How I Met Your Mother, or Friends, or just these kind of very mass market art. Called mass market. How Stella Got a Groove Back. Baywatch, of course, one of the major stars of Baywatch is now making her debut in an art film. Of course, I mean The Last Showgirl, which I have yet to see, but that's mentioned in here. The Rachel, a kind of haircut, so millions of girls and women would want to look just like Rachel, Jennifer Aniston. This is kind of that's a spirit, and that's kind of the world we're entering today. This is real time travel. I don't think we've done a show thus far that's going to be as deeply time travel dependent as this one. So should I look at books now, or should I get out the TV? Which let me get out. So I don't really have a lot of books on television, but I have some. So this, of course, look at this cover. Look at that jacket. In the 80s and 90s, didn't every book look like this? Lots of gold and bright red lettering and garish lettering, and just this kind of stuff. And you got the jacket photo. Yeah, look at this guy. The jacket photo. This is an 80s. This is a book about, of course, about the king of the night, who was Johnny, right? And the prince real big. Remember this? Big print. Easy on the eyes. We're not going to do, again, on this episode, I'm not going to do the man's whole life story. I don't have the, what's the word? Constitution or spirit to do that. But we're going to deal with him a little bit. So that's Carson's book when he's riding high. This comes out when he still has a show. It's not off the air yet. It's not 1991 yet. Here's a book from this year, the newest, by the late BillZehme, who was a journalist and a reporter who loved Johnny Carson and made his life's work to cover the man. And this is, notice the difference in aesthetics of book publishing. This is not at all garish. A tasteful black and white photograph, see? Carson the Magnificent. That's a play on the fact that Johnny Carson got started in magic and doing magic shows and Carnap and all this kind of stuff, and that's a play on that. And you have this back him doing his golf swing. In his evening suit is what we call it. You guys probably call it a tux. We call it evening suit. Dinner suit, tuxedo, doing golf. I've read both these books. I just thought it'd be interesting to look at those covers. So I think it's time for the TV. So bear with me. Get a drink of coffee and a glass of water and gonna. This is the fun part of the show, you know? Another thing I want to say, you know, we just watched the Oscars, of course, and Conan O'Brien comes right out of Johnny Carson. His presentation, the way he talks about the movies. I saw this movie, I loved it. Brutalist, loved it, went to see it. It's almost like Johnny. Learned a lot from Carson. So you can have an era die. Like this era we're going to look at now, today in the show, is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. But occasionally individuals will learn things and bring, they're almost anachronistic actually. Yet they're successful because I think possibly a culture might need a little bit of something when that something is not is in short supply or is, you know, yeah, that's right. Jimmy Kimmel. So the way Jimmy Kimmel talks about politics. So I couldn't find. So there's a lot of political humor from Carson, and he's always in his political humor, almost always not obvious about it. Always liberal, always. And he's very cordial when he has Reagan on his show, but there's always, you know, an implication. Like, for example, this has been taken down from YouTube, but there was a show where he was introducing the guest was going to be Jane Fonda. We're going to actually watch the Jane Fonda interview, so I've got it, thankfully. But I don't have his monologue. His monologue, he says, you know, I know our star today is very controversial. She's in a movie called Julia, and with Vanessa Redgrave, and he says, but always remember, Carson tells the audience, he says, always remember that sometimes people that are controversial or take a stand on something might turn out to be right later on. You never know, he says. He doesn't come out and say that she's right. He says, but, you know, give her a chance and let's hear what she has to say. Really profound thing to do. Reflects a different era than our own, of course, in many ways. But let's look at this. This is, I want to pick two monologues because the key to this show is the monologue. And then you have the guest. And then you have the musical director, Doc Severinsen, or whoever it is. I want to get a sense of, well, this is a Thanksgiving Day. So I have a Thanksgiving Day and a 4th of July. And of course, he's going to make jokes about having to work. You know, always, you know, one of the rules is be self-deprecatory. I mean, in fact, Letterman carries this even further. Letterman's so self-deprecatory that when he has GeneHackman on, he says, well, GeneHackman's been on all these wonderful movies. Why is he here on our show? You know, of course, it's bogus because it's a famous show and people want to be on Letterman, but as if to say that, you know, we're beneath GeneHackman, you know, he's not. These little touches, you know, these things. So let's watch a little bit of the music and pretend that it's, yeah.
Inviting you to join Johnny and his guest, Tony Bennett, Arlene Galanka, comedian George Wallace, and
that's comedian George Wallace, not politician. Just a.
Artie Payne. And now, here's Johnny.
That's Tommy Newsom, a great band leader. Two great band leaders. Doc Severinsen, the great trumpeter. Tommy Newsom, some of the best musicians in Los Angeles, in California. It's the 70s, so Carson's going to be wearing really loud clothes, you know, bold patterns. But notice the studio audience is very excited. They're very enthusiastic. Gives that.
Come on, relax. You got a long night. I'm just number one on your list of things to be thankful for. Let us bow our heads and thank the Lord for the jokes we are about to receive. I couldn't even get the benediction out, could I? Now, before I start the show, first of all, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for coming. I mean that. Now, this is a good chance to set the record straight. You notice who's working
Here we go.
on a holiday? While David Letterman, Bill Cosby, Bob Newhart, John Davidson, and David Brenner are home with their families, I'm here.
He's stuck. Stuck working.
That's right. Of course, I only work holidays. That's it. Hey, you sound in a good mood. Have you had your Thanksgiving dinner already, or are you going to do it later? Okay, all right.
So what he's doing here is that, you notice how every line is about trying to connect to something everybody's experiencing. This is the nature of, that's popular art is about that. It's not, it's just trying, it's always trying to make some kind of connection. It's also always trying to create some kind of unity, if at all possible. Again, this is just one style. I mean, my taste varies. I mean, I like some very, as you know, I like artwork that's very difficult and obscure, and artwork that's quite radical sometimes radical politically, not all the time. And I like artwork that's sometimes difficult or mysterious or maybe even intellectual. But I also like this, a different scene, you know.
Anyway, Ed is back in New York. Did the Thanksgiving Day Parade today.
Big man.
What? Macy's Day Parade. Doc is over here, and Mr. Excitement.
No.
The only man I know who on Thanksgiving asks for brown meat. All right, Tom. Good. You know, I'm from the Midwest. You know that. You're up from Oregon. Don't you get wax sentimental this time of the year and get homesick? Yeah, I do. My memories take me back to the plains of Nebraska, where I grew up as a youth. That's right.
Another thing on these shows is he'll mention, a guest will mention, I'm from New Jersey. And all the people in the audience that are from New Jersey will start clapping. All the people in Nebraska start clapping. It's that kind of creating that bond with emotional connection, emotional intelligence, bond with the audience. And, you know, Tommy Newsom is always very stiff and really square and express no emotion. That's a running joke. So that's why they make, you know, they're going to come back to that joke. So Tommy Newsom is acting the introvert in a way, playing up his introversion, his meekness, you know, that's his thing. And Doc Severinsen wears really loud clothes, which in the 70s is saying a lot. You know, they're freaked out by what he's wearing then, so you can imagine it's pretty wild.
I can never
That was
forget a girl I went with, met there at Thanksgiving. She was an Indian girl. Yeah, they have a lot of Indians back there, right here. Princess Dying Rabbit. No, today the entire Carson family gathered at my home for it was kind of like a Norman Rockwell portrait of Thanksgiving. You know, we had the turkey, the pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce, the elderberry wine. Kids over one table, the adults sitting at the other table. I heard it was fun. I was at the Mom Maison with Swiftly Lazar's, so I missed it, but I understand it was a lot of fun.
See how he's using the audience?
Turkey is coming earlier than I thought.
Like when a joke falls flat, or he's using, and he knows how to. There's terms for this, like recovery and all these terms in comedy.
I actually decided to do some cooking this year. I do, yeah. So, come on. Oh, for this joke, I decided to do some cooking. And I tuned in Julia Childs. She's good. She was demonstrating how to cook a turkey. I left her room for a moment. My wife came in, Joanna, turned the show to General Hospital. And I didn't know that. And I came back in, and ended up giving the turkey a hysterectomy.
So Carson had 5 wives, I think. Joanne, Joanna. There's a list here. I mean, there's a whole. I mean, I'd love to do an episode just. I'd actually love to have his wives on the show. I mean, I would just be in heaven, you know, talking to some of these women that were married to him that are still around. You know, that would be interesting. He.
You know, most people every year have Thanksgiving, right? But very few people know much about the bird at all, except that it's very ugly, and it tastes good. Did you know that the male turkey has a harem of 6 birds? Yeah, that's true. Well, look, you can hardly blame the tom turkey. He knows he's got 1 year to live. Why, you know, why betroth yourself just to one bird? And when they make love, I understand the tom turkey closes his eyes and thinks of a swan.
All right, enough of that. One more monologue, and then we're going to start to get to gas, you know.
JohnnyCarson.
So,
This is John.
this is 4th of July.
Right, 199 years.
Here we go.
Thank you, Fred. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
To
America.
us. Everybody's birthday today, right? That's right. 199 years old, and... Are you in the fireworks display later tonight?
Talk about Doc's clothing.
Think of me as your own personal Roman candle.
All righty. Good evening. I'm Johnny Carson. I'm going to bring you a safe and sane 4th tonight, because the monologue is a dud.
So,
Reason I'm here tonight, actually, I wasn't going to be here, but my favorite campsite was filled up. Have you been out on the roads at all? You can't move, I understand, out at the beaches. Did you go anyplace today?
No, this is it for me. I mean, I'm celebrating right here,
Ah,
as I often do.
Tom, how about you?
here we-
How about what?
Tommy Newsom is doing his shtick. Pretty good.
It's those toughies that throw it. Tommy, he loves fireworks. What Tommy does every 4th of July, he lights a Crayola and yells bang. Incidentally, you know, fire department regulations, we thought we should have something to celebrate the 4th tonight, but fire department regulations say we cannot have on stage a display of live fireworks. But don't despair. We have a skyrocket under each of your seats. Will be fired off sometime during the show tonight. Well, this is a nice day today. Beautiful weather out here in California. And this is the time of year that Americans kind of set aside their differences and join in a calm celebration. Even in New York City, where they're celebrating the bicentennial, the
Yeah.
sanitation workers have agreed to pick up the garbage every 200 years.
All right. So, you know, that's a little bit of the what are we gonna do here? What
Right.
do you look at?
All right.
I think we're gonna look at GeneHackman a little bit. In honor of Hackman, who
GeneHackman is with us tonight. He's, as you know, one of Hollywood's finest actors, attested to by the fact that he was an Academy Award winner, and his latest film called The Conversation premieres around the country on April the 7th. Would you welcome GeneHackman?
So the guests on this show are McLean Stevenson, George Carlin. Who's talking about? It's evergreen. George Carlin.
It's been a long time since you've been here, hasn't it?
It's been a year. Exactly.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you. What a nice, funny show it is. Really. You guys
You know
are
what?
terrific.
What?
Can I say something?
Certainly.
You're my favorite actor. No, you really are. I was talking to the guy on the phone today from your office, Johnny's office, about it.
Yeah.
And the reason is there's another guy, Donald Pleasance, who does the same thing for me. I don't know how old Donald Pleasance is. He could be 804, he could be 21. No matter what he does, he's never Donald Pleasance. He always becomes that character, and that's what you do. No matter what character you play, you're not GeneHackman. You're like that character. Robert Redford's always pretty, always Robert Redford. But you're that character.
I didn't say that. You did.
No, I mean, you know, Robert Redford's a great actor. He's one of my favorites, too. But I'm saying...
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you very much. That was my opening statement to you. Exactly. you what, I don't really have anything else to volunteer tonight, and it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you, McLean. Took my whole interview right there.
George, what do you got to say?
No, that's
George is marvelous. We had his album Occupation Fool.
Occupation Fool.
We didn't know what it was, and we played it one night when my kids were there. Now my youngest one is 7. She's heard all those words, but to hear them on a record is something else. But it's really marvelous. It's great fun. Thank you. They really.
Personally, I've always been my favorite myself. Mutual Admiration Society going on here tonight, which is true. What's the new film about that comes out in April?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting film. It's called Conversation. It's a film about the invasion of privacy and loneliness and kind of what happens to people who steep their lives in nefarious acts that or what I consider nefarious acts or doing things that we have found out recently that are not too profitable. Wiretapping and that kind of thing. The interesting thing about it, we did this film in '72.
Pre-Watergate?
Yes, pre-Watergate. And Francis Coppola, who wrote it and also directed it, had written it 2 years prior to that. So he was really into this kind of invasion of privacy thing. And the story it's kind of an interesting story in that the main character gets involved in a case where he is generally been a very cold type person and has never really committed himself to that kind of thing.
Did you meet the people during the filming of this thing who engaged in this kind of thing?
We had
private investigators, whatever I guess you'd call them.
Well, of course, it's all illegal now, so there is no one like that. Except that there are a couple of guys who say, well, I know a guy who knows somebody who can tell you about it. And there are a couple of manufacturers who I understand can only manufacture for the government. That's what they say. And
it's fairly
so I
typical
met one of these experts, and he, matter of fact, he was with us on the film most of the time. And interesting guy in a lot of ways because he really was an electronics expert. And I'm sure from his point of view, what he does is a very valid job.
It's kind of frightening, isn't it, when you find out?
Yeah. He gave me a little
number
thing,
of techniques that they can use that scare you to death.
He had a little thing, it was about the size of a matchbox. I had it at home and I couldn't find it. I was going to bring it. But it was about the size of a matchbox and a little antenna on it, and you could just put it in your pocket and go to somebody's house and drop it behind the studio couch and have it pre-tuned and go out in your car and take your portable radio.
Sit and listen.
Sit and listen.
So that's just a thing of an actor, they're talking about preparing for a part. If you're a woman who, for example, this year's films, who's not Russian, might have to learn Russian. If you're not making a habit of, you haven't done commercial type erotic entertainment for a living, you might have to learn about that for a part. Another example of an actor, every day hanging out with, you could call them disreputable people, people that spy on others and, divorce. I don't know. It's kind of interesting thing. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. The Conversation. I watch it pretty regularly. Me and my girlfriend Jo watched it together. When was it? Last, yeah. Double bill with Night Moves. Another favorite Hackman picture. But it's interesting to think about. Actors discuss things. Oh, come on, and they'll. So let's get into another type of thing. This is Jane Fonda. Be nice to look at Jane Fonda.
Skip Henderson. Must have gone back thinking of Skip somewhere. Skip Stevenson. My first guest tonight is a gal that I admire highly, not because she is such a fine actress, which she is. As a matter of fact, if you've seen this week's copy of Newsweek, it says Hollywood's new heroines, and Jane Fonda is on the cover.
Yeah.
And she is currently starring in the film Julia, in which she's received tremendous personal reviews. Critics say it's probably the best, deepest thing that she has done. And I admire not only as a professional, but because as a person who has taken a stand on issues that at times were unpopular and was willing to stand up and be counted. Called a radical. It's a funny thing how people who were called radicals at the time now are considered people who, a lot of them who were right on And a lot of people wish that they had taken those stands previously.
This is the
Anyway,
I'm glad. So it wasn't taken down. This is the interview. This is the when you discuss this. This is very interesting.
picture she has just done. She portrays American writer Lillian Hellman, and if you know, she won the Academy Award for Clute. Received an Oscar nomination for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Would you welcome, please, Miss Jane Fonda.
Star walks on the stage, screaming.
All I read, whether it's Newsweek or reviews, any place, reviews about the depth that you bring this role, which must be very pleasing to you.
It's more than the role. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I know you've said before that you thought there were not, and a lot of actresses have said this, that Hollywood seems to not have had a lot of roles for women in which they can show emotions and so forth. They're really women's roles, and this is a role that you can get in and do something with.
Very much so. I about 2 weeks into the film, I started realizing that it was different. It felt different than anything I'd ever done before. And I realized that, I've made almost 30 films, and
She's talking about Fred
some of them were
Zinnemann.
pretty silly, but in all
Fred
of them, I
Zinnemann, the
was either
director.
going after a guy, or I'd been dropped by a guy, or I wondered where was a guy that was going to love me, or was neurotic. And finally, I was able to play a role, or I was a hooker. I've been a hooker a lot of times. I finally had a part.
And an Academy Award hooker.
A woman who was smart, who was intelligent, who was complex, who was also very human and scared, and who it's really the story about the very, very deep friendship between two women and how they challenge each other to be braver and better people at a terrible time in history, the rise of fascism in Germany. And really, I'm real pleased that a number of the reviews say that it's almost the perfect anti-Nazi film, because so often the horrors of something like that become abstract. You know, the rising tide of fascism loses any kind of sense to many of us.
Well, when you put it on personal terms.
When it's on very human, personal terms, then the horror of the violence really comes across.
Yeah, as you say, this is a step away from the direction. You think motion pictures are going to break new ground and try to do pictures that, as you say, just aren't boy meets girl, boy loses girl, and so forth? That they're going to explore some and take a chance on what is not called the, quote, commercial route.
As you know, it all depends on whether movies like Julia make money, right?
Comes down to the bottom line, doesn't it?
If Julia makes money, then we'll see other intelligent films.
I hope it's a smash for you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Really is. Did you hear the introduction I gave you?
You gave a very generous introduction.
No, I was talking about it. No, the reason I bring it because it was interesting. You've been called radicals, and when I say you think back in history, all the people who were called radicals and all the great changes that have happened socially, either for the worse or for the better, have been by radicals, whether they were the guys who framed the Constitution, and people forget that. When we look back at our own revolutionary days, and all of those people were very, very radical. And if they were walking around in the 50s or the 60s, people said, oh, those radicals. But the term has softened now, hasn't it? And a lot of people who took stands in those days turned out to be very right. Did you ever work that thing out with you had some problems about mail and so forth? You mind if I get into that a second? Oh, did you want to put...
You can get into anything you want.
Okay. Yes, you...
See, this is the sexual innuendo. You get anything. She says you can get anything you want, and the audience is
They're animals. They're animals.
it's a common.
For example, we've
CIA
all,
does.
yes, that's right.
CIA
We've all become aware in this country that personal liberties and personal privacy is almost a thing of the past now, with computers and opening of mail, tapping of telephone lines. And they did a lot of newsmen and a lot of political figures and anybody that they thought was against the establishment at that time. And you pursued that in a suit. And I just wondered if that was ever resolved, or what happened.
It will take many years to resolve. It's a suit that's being filed on my behalf by the ACLU, and the reason that I filed the suit is when Ford pardoned Nixon, the ability for Americans to really get to the root of Watergate was really closed off, except through these kind of private civil suits.
Right.
And I felt it was important not just because of what it would reveal about what was done to me, but because we can learn something about how an administration like the Nixon administration used government agencies to try to destroy people who didn't agree with him.
Right.
And it's pretty terrifying to...
I'm thinking here about what I'm going to show. That these platforms,
199 years old.
these platforms are relentless. So you got a sense of that, right? Let's do one more. So another one more Carson. Then we're going to move to David Letterman. And this is more in the 80s, I think. And this is sometimes talk show hosts like Carson and Letterman would work out behind the scenes kind of fake controversies, faked bad behavior. Joaquin Phoenix, for example, is a famous one later on. Crispin Glover, both Letterman. We're going to see a little something here. Charles Grodin would do that, hostility. And it's nice to see some Grodin. Then we're going to move to Letterman, talk about when you have a commercial style like this, a talk show host, an artist will come in and completely overthrow its terms. I mean, to use Jane Fonda's word there and Carson's word, is radical. And from the point of view of this era that we're now time traveling, to which we're time traveling now, it was radical. We'll get to that in a second. But anyway, some Charles Grodin.
My first guest tonight, who's currently starring, would it be starring or co-starring? I guess he's starring in a picture called Taking Care of Business with Jim Belushi.
Oh,
That
boy.
he's co-starring.
What?
That he's co-starring.
It says here he's currently starring.
Not a great
Well,
picture.
We'll
Maybe
find out.
our staff made a mistake.
Well, we'll find out when he
Taking
comes
Care
out.
of
He's out
Business.
here filming Clifford, which says with Martin Short.
Taking Care of Business is the Bachman-Turner Overdrive biopic.
And
Right?
he wrote a very entertaining memoir titled "It Would Be Nice." It would be so nice.
It's a really good book. It'd be so nice if you weren't here.
That's the way his mind goes. Would you welcome Mr. Charles Grodin?
Yeah, here we go.
That is the most self-effacing, humble entrance I've ever seen.
Look at the shtick he's doing.
What? That was the most humble. I mean, it's kind of self-effacing entrance I've
Excuse
seen.
me. Do you feel my pants? The lady, Amy Yashbeck, who's coming on later, felt my pants were disrespectful.
I don't know. I think they're fine if you're a log roller.
Were you offended by my pants?
Not a bit. Jeans are comfortable. I think
Good.
jeans are
Good, and you?
It's just,
You wear pants?
yes, I have pants on. Really not necessary. Most of the time I'm back there. I
Yes,
could
that's
probably
what
save a
I
lot if I
haven't
didn't wear
seen
it.
your...
Let's work this out here.
Now this is Grodin. Grodin would just come up with this stuff. I mean, he goes further and further. I remember Ellen Burstyn on our show was talking about the stuff Grodin would come up with, what he would do. Just keep everybody
His
off
term
guard.
is starring and taking care of business. Then in parentheses it says with Jim Belushi. So is the correct billing co-starring or starring?
Taking Care of Business is probably the most entertaining picture I've done since Heaven Can Wait.
Did I miss a question somewhere? Did you answer something else before this? You're jumping ahead to the next question. You see, they have to come in order. I asked the question, then you answer the
I
current
have
question.
certain things to say, and you have certain things
Of
to
course
say.
we
I'm
do.
interested.
It's really not important. You're both starring in the
We're
picture.
both starring,
starring in
and
the
I think it's the most entertaining picture I've done since Heaven Can Wait. I said that, right?
I hope so.
You have to say things twice.
We got to clear something up. You see, and you're starting again tonight. Every time you're on the show, we get mail. I don't say tons of
You
mail.
use eyeliner and
What?
all?
What? Only when I tried to get out of the service, but that...
He only uses eyeliner. He's trying to get out of the
A lot
military.
of
He says,
people, when you're on the show, they write me and they call and they say, why does Charles Grodin treat you so shabbily? Doesn't he like you? What is it? I mean, you want to address that or speak to that question?
I don't know what to do when I'm out here because most of the reasons people come on a talk show. I can't really do that. I can't come out and why do people come on a talk show, in your opinion? You're Mr. Talk Show.
To plug this book, to plug this movie.
Okay, and if I would do that,
What else are you here for?
that's what I'm asking. If I would do that, your attitude would be disdain. You know, when I tried to talk about my book in the hardcover, you said $18.95. You know, that's a lot of money for a book.
I thought
said
it
it's
was.
my whole life.
I thought it was.
You said, you know, maybe if it's Mother Teresa's life. You know.
You remember those things, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I didn't know you were that sensitive. You actually remember that.
I'm so sensitive. I really can't answer a question from someone who's not interested in the question.
I'm very interested in the question. All right. It's okay, I'm used to it. Now, what does the paperback go for?
This is
Hard copy?
$9.95.
Well, now we're talking.
Look at the prices. I want to move a little bit. Wait a minute.
That's right. So if you ask me what I'm up to, I'm not going to answer because I'm not going to make a fool of myself and watch you go to sleep as I answer.
Oh, no. I know all the tricks. I always look alert when I don't care. See, like this. What are you up to? No, of course I'm in. I admire you. I think you're a fine actor. And
You called me a well-known troublemaker.
did you listen to the mom? You heard that?
I heard that.
Well, if we took.
I also heard that people walked out of Betsy's wedding and went into shrimp on a bar.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. What the does that mean?
I was drawing a net.
These are references to not very good 80s movies. Isn't Shrimp on a Barbie, isn't that Tommy Chun, or is it Cheech Marin? I forget. Betsy's Wedding is a Molly Ringwald type of thing. I don't know. I think Charles Grodin was in both. I don't know.
Analogy
There it
that
is.
Iran now says they would take hostages from Iraq. And I said that's similar to walking out of Betsy's wedding into Shrimp on a Barbie. But they're both movies. Neither one are great movies. So the analogy was comparing that. You don't understand it, do you?
It's amazing. How long have you been on the air?
You had to get the last one
Sometimes
in.
longevity itself, you know, we so appreciate that you're here. It doesn't really matter what you're saying. If Ed Sullivan could be here Sunday night at 8 o'clock, would anybody care what he says?
Not a bit.
We'd be so thrilled that he was there. He'd be 102, but
Just
so what?
the fact that he shows up.
That's what I mean.
I think that's
and
what it is.
And we appreciate it. So anything you have to say.
Right. Well, we're going to come back and continue this amazing discussion. And we're going to find out what you are really up to.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a break and we'll come right back. Now, that was our long break of the evening, and I noticed the audience were watching us during the break, trying to figure out what was going on. You were just kind of, and I usually don't talk to the guests during the break because I want to keep it fresh for when we come back. You were just kind of staring off like this the whole 3 minutes, and people were looking at us. But what was going through your mind? Anything?
I haven't eaten.
So it's hunger.
Yeah.
Hunger.
I was just
Hunger.
thinking.
I didn't sense that emotion. That's hunger. Did you have some of the parts you played in pictures? You always play guys who get annoyed rather quickly. What bugs you? Do you have a little boiling point on certain things? Outside of being here, of course. Set this aside.
Is there anything you'd like to ask me? I mean, really?
I'm interested in what bugs you in life. For example, I'll tell you what bugs me.
All right.
Being in a two-lane highway where the guy ahead drives 30 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone and will not let you pass.
Isn't that aggravating?
That aggravates me.
Boy, me too. That's really. But you know what's
you
even
have one of
worse
your
than
own?
that? You know what's even worse than that? Walking out of Betsy's wedding.
Into Shrimp on a Barbie.
That really, whatever that means.
Yeah, okay.
To listen to a joke like that 3 times tonight and not know what it means is really so aggravating.
Yeah, I imagine it is. Do you have any other pet peeves that we can discuss outside of that?
No, I'm more interested in knowing what you really are. Are you interested in anything at all?
Absolutely. That's why I'm asking.
No,
yes.
you're really. No, really.
Of course I am.
You really care?
Yes.
What do you care about? I mean, in life. You care about anything?
This is
I mean, we hope the show goes on forever.
Sure.
All right. We hope everybody's happy. But, given that and we're all healthy and happy,
Right.
is there anything in the world that
Yes.
you actually
Yes.
care about?
Yes.
What?
My health, and I have this terrible pain right now. It's aggravated by
see
you
that.
asking me dumb questions like that.
Well, I'm going to try to cut through the list, the questions.
well, forget the list.
All right. I'm really asking you man to man as though we weren't here.
Yes.
We are here, but as though we weren't here.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know about you. There's a lot of things I care deeply about.
Deeply.
Deeply.
Come on.
What do you mean, come on?
Deeply.
Of course.
You?
Yes. I can care about the human condition.
Come on. Like what?
Don't you know what the human condition
Yeah,
means?
but what do you care about the human condition? You've reduced the entire world situation, Iraq and everything, to an opening monologue. And Saddam Hussein and boo. You really, is there anything in the world that you really, do you lie awake at night and worry about anything that doesn't have to do with the show or yourself?
Yes, the mentally impaired.
So this is
You're afraid.
Nobody's perfect.
that's Grodin and Carson going at it. They did this many times. So this is a good segue into what Letterman did. Now I'm going to start off with Letterman's second episode, where he talks to the audience and shows, he sort of, you might say, deconstructs the talk show, showing the camera operator and the this and the that. Letterman is, I said he's a radical. He introduces a kind of an odd detachment, a kind of it's very hard to articulate. He's a little bit deadpan. Oh yeah, well maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. That's true. But it's mainly an awareness, of course, that he's the host and he's there. But some people feel he's laughing at them secretly or laughing at the situation. He carries that very far. Like Carson, he's Middle Western in origin, but he's very different in style. And I'm gonna show that just to give a sense of his second episode. It's very early in his show. And what do we want to? Yeah, here we go. All right.
Here selling some software.
So this is the
We're
early
gonna go through
1982.
some of the folks in the studio audience.
Studio
We like to
audience.
call it the studio audience, and so we do. How do you do? Were you making the dog noises? What is your name?
Wendy,
What do you do for a living, Wendy?
I'm a student.
You're a student. Good money in that. Okay. Let's see.
So that's the kind of good money. He's, Carson would never do that. He's introducing, you could say it's snark. You could say it. Some people think it's meanness. I had to listen, when you're a young person, you're in your 20s or your teenager, you have to listen to the opinions of other people. And when I was staying in Tampa, when I was I lived in Boston, but I had to come back to Florida. I had to listen to people analyze Letterman, usually negative. They would tear him apart, and he doesn't like this, he doesn't like that, and he's arguing, having like long, so-called intellectual discussions about the vices of Mr. Letterman. So I guess guess what he was doing didn't.
How do you do? What is your name, sir?
Dick Eckelbarger.
Dick Eckelbarger. Stand up for a second. Do you mind, Dick? Where are you from? You look like you have a tan.
Tucson, Arizona.
And you are in New York City for the purpose of?
Business purposes.
Can you be a little more specific about that, Dick?
We're here selling some software products.
And software being?
Computer programs.
Oh, yeah. Does that mean anything to anybody? Well, nice to have you here, Dick.
No one knows what it is. He's in software. What is that? It's computers. Like, I think I know what a computer
How long
is.
have you been in New York?
2 days.
And what have you done besides come here?
We've been out to eat a few times.
Kind of a dream come true for Dick, isn't it? I guess you don't get to eat much back there in Arizona, huh?
Sometimes we eat there.
Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight. Nice to see you. Do you mind, are you related to this woman here, Dick? You're not. Do you mind standing up, ma'am? What is your name?
Sally Ponce.
Sally, do you mind coming out here? Is this microphone working? Must be my mouth then. And where are you from, Sally?
Tucson, Arizona.
And you don't know Dick?
I know Dick, but we're not together.
Oh. No, they'll believe that back in Arizona. Have you ever been to a television studio before?
Never.
It's kind of impressive, awe-inspiring, all of this equipment and, of course, the nearly trained crew. Is there a particular piece of equipment out there that interests you?
So again, the tone, it's anti-Carson, right? Because Carson is almost relating to his guests as if he were a fellow actor. He will talk to somebody. I did this play once when I was a kid, and what was the set like? It's more, and this is the attitude. I'm sort of stuck having to do this job. And it's not so much that I'm above it all. I'm no better, really. But I don't understand where I am, and playing that up, kind of a little bit. See this expression, the scowl on his face. You would never see. Johnny Carson would do a scowl, but he would always look at the audience when he did that in response to something somebody said, but not in an exchange, like...
This one, that's the producer.
This is,
What were you pointing at?
I was pointing at this.
Oh, this one looking at us? That's a television camera. Would you ever have any interest in running one of those?
Sure.
All right, we're going to teach you how to run one of these tonight, and it may come in handy back there in Tucson, was it?
Yes.
And your name is?
Sally.
Okay, Sally, come on down here if you don't mind. Watch your purse, will you? Come on over here, Sally. What do you think? Is it the slacks or is it the coat?
The slacks and the sacks.
The slacks and the what?
The sacks are holding the slacks.
The slacks and the sacks. Oh, you socks.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Well, that is what that is. I should take off this. I look like I rolled off a turnip truck. Okay, Sally. I'll tell you what. Let's do. This is Pam. This is Sally. And Pam, how long have you been running the big machine here?
Oh, about 2 years now.
And it's what model is that?
It's a TK44.
TK44, ladies and gentlemen.
now,
All right, Pam, go ahead and tell Sally what she needs to do here.
Okay, why don't you just put this headset on, and you can hear the director that way.
That will be Hal Gurney you're listening to there.
Hi, Sally.
Hi. Now,
Are those going to fit?
you okay? Yeah. Okay. Now, hold on to it.
Some of you other guys may want to look in here.
Now, this is your zoom handle. Okay.
This is the zoom handle, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, you can make it go in. Okay, and you can bring it back. Okay. This is your focus handle. You put your hand up there, and that'll make it either soft or sharp. Okay. You can.
so I'm going to make a recommendation of a show that I think is indispensable on this topic, and that's Larry Sanders' show, Gary Shanley's show, roughly in this era, a little later. It's a great show, not just about a talk show. Of course, Gary Shanley was friends with Johnny Carson, as like Conan O'Brien and some other people. But it's an interesting, a fictional representation of this kind of. There's that movie by Betty. Names Betty, not Betty Furness. A really great comedy actress who went into directing. Betty Rogers, The Late Show, from the 90s. Thomas, that's it, Betty Thomas. Good director. She does recent costume comedies, like about events, I think her film is The Late Show, about the fight between the feuds of the Jay Leno and Letterman. I recommend that. But there's a little bit of
All around, left to right.
How much is this worth, Pam?
Oh, probably about $100,000.
$100,000.
I'll be very careful.
Okay.
You can make it go way, way up.
That's terrific.
Right? And you can make it go way, way down. Right?
Oh, you need some Dramamine for that.
And
Yeah, that's a good
Wherever
show.
these
Yeah.
little red arrows are pointing is where the wheels
I like.
are
I
gonna
like.
go, and the whole thing will go.
Okay, are we all set, Hal?
Okay, here we go.
Where do you want
You
me?
get on the mark, on the little yellow T mark there.
Right? Oh, right here? Oh, okay.
Stick to it. And don't fool around.
Okay, I'll try not to. Okay. All right.
Here we go, David.
That's perfect, Sally.
Yeah.
Do what now? So we're going over here, Sally. Okay.
Right over there, that's good. Now move in, let a truck in, push in there, that's good. Let's see David. That's good, you can start.
How do you do?
Okay, focus up.
Okay.
So that's a little of Letterman contributing to his
Selling some software products.
style.
And
I had to compile all this stuff, you know. So
Theater.
is that a big theater? Interesting.
I learned a little something myself.
Gosh, it might
Sandra
be
Bernhardt.
I saw Mom last weekend, by the way.
yeah, this video includes copyrighted material used for the purpose of commentary
I was
and
over in
criticism,
India.
which falls under
Yeah,
the
it's
fair
actually
use doctrine
southwest of here a little bit.
of copyright
She's
law.
good. She retired. She retired from
No
the job.
copyright infringement intended.
Well, yeah. Last week.
Were you you went for her retirement party?
Went for a little dinner there, yeah.
That's nice. Did you give her my regards?
As a matter of fact, I did.
Oh, thank you. My mother sends you her regards.
Your parents are very nice. They've always been very kind and charming to me. And I said, wait a minute, Hal. Hal, I said if there was a lull. That was bristling good comedy. Our next guest is a talented writer and performer. She has a hit off-Broadway show called Without You I'm Nothing. And listen to this, her autobiography will be published at the end of this month, folks. Please welcome back SandraBerhnardt.
Now this is an interesting
You've lied your last lie. I've cried my last cry. I'm out the door, babe. There's another fish in the sea.
Okay.
Ooh, baby, baby. Ooh, baby, baby. Hey, will somebody please tell Samantha Fox that naughty girls also need a good dye job? How about it, Samantha? Oh, you're hot tonight, baby. You're on. You're on. You're killing me. Hi,
Hi, how are you?
look at that.
To you.
Let's talk here a little bit about this show.
Let's talk about it. Let's promote it. Let's plug it.
Now, what is the deal? Now, this thing started around in the.
Remember last time I was here? You
Started
said
in the spring.
It was going to close.
I said it would be
Over
gone by
Easter.
April. Yeah, but it's still here, and it's a.
Surprise, surprise.
Is it like a big hit now?
Major hit. They're all coming, baby, and they all love me. They're eating me up.
Now, where is it playing?
At the Orpheum Theater.
Is that a big
downtown.
theater?
Major theater.
Yeah. How many seats in this place?
So I was there. I
250.
saw her show at the Orpheum in what was this? Early '90s, '80s, I don't know. '80s, 80, yeah, 88, 86 through 88. So this is probably 88. I saw it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And you
Pack them in
do,
like
you do,
sardines.
do you do a matinee?
No, I do midnight shows, late shows.
Like
The hip crowd.
and are you?
I think
Only the hip people.
Are you?
My reviews have come out.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you.
I know.
Yeah. You can.
Clive Barnes described me as a butch Carly Simon.
A Butch Carly.
Funny, I always thought of Carly as such an ingenue herself. A veritable will-o'-the-wisp.
See, now I don't know what any of that means.
Oh, you do too. And then Walter Goodman from the New York Times came down. He was an older man, about 87. He sat down front like he was trapped in hell. And he was thinking, so I can't wait till I go home and give myself an enema. I mean, the man was miserable. And then
I know that feeling.
I get voice from a woman named Laurie Stone,
Yeah.
who had previously kissed my butt, okay? It was all up in my face. She more or less accused me of wanting to be more successful and famous than I already am. And you know what, David? I've been on the phone to my therapist for weeks. There's something wrong with me.
What's the matter?
I do want to be more successful, and I'm scared.
No, you're doing a
What
little...
does she want me to go over to Show World and become a stripper? I mean, now look, this
You did a little Mary Richards there,
Did
didn't
you notice
Yeah,
that?
a little bit of Mary Richards, yeah.
What's that microphone
So-
that they put out
I don't know,
there?
but now,
So if you don't know the references to, of course, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Mary Tyler Moore, Mary Richards, a place, a very famous adult entertainment theater called Show World on 42nd Street, and other things in there.
I want to play you a phone.
but what's going to happen if you actually become a big deal?
I already am. Where is it?
What is it?
I'm sure. Oh, you saying that's... Thanks.
Oh yeah, easy to miss that.
What am I going to do? A little Julie London number right out here?
Julie London, Crimea River.
Filter, flavor, pack, or box. Miss Julie London. No. The kids are so slow out here, aren't they? Woo! I've got spurs that jingle
Okay, all right, now what do you...
Hell with them. I don't care. You know, I stripped on the show today, the Robin Bird show.
Nobody knows what that is.
Robin Bird had a pornographic talk show in New York City in this era. She would have adult film stars on. That's what they're referring to. And Letterman says they won't know who that is or what that is.
So anyways,
But nobody knows in the rest of the country what
well,
that
they're gonna know.
No, they're not going to know.
They know, they don't care, they love me. So,
All right, now you have your little devices out here. What's the deal?
now forget it.
No, I want to hear this.
I like the build
A
up.
woman from the village
Okay, let's hear it.
left me a message at home after she gave me this. Now where's the microphone again? Listen.
Hi, this is Lori Stone. Hi. I hope we can be friends. You can continue to trash me in your act, but I have a favor to ask you. My number is 637.
What's your phone number?
You know I love your work. I love you. I hope we can be friends. I really do. There's something that I'm cooking up with The Voice that I'd like to talk to you about and see if you can become involved or even just have a chat about it. It's for the gay pride issue, which Richard Goldstein is putting together. He's asked me to do something to contribute to it, and I wanted to talk to you about it. So I think we made it with you. And I'm glad the show is working out. I really am.
I'm sure you are, bitch.
All right.
Film me. They
Well,
film
that's
me.
nice. Should we bring on your little messages? Maybe next time bring on your mail, read us some of your mail, go through your checkbooks.
Oh, by the way, thanks for letting me stay in your house while you're out of town. I had a blast. And the kids loved it, too.
Okay, we have to do a commercial, and then we'll be right back here with
So,
Fail everywhere else. All that and more.
Yeah.
Been working out a lot.
there's a special guest coming up pretty soon. So we're
A cute
gonna,
little club called Better Bodies.
she's consoling you there.
Well, it was a tender moment with me and Madonna.
Yeah.
Madonna.
I love the, it's all girls night as Madonna leads terrible trio on late night Lulu's.
Right, I see. So what do you do when you go out?
We just party, get crazy.
Now, what does that mean? You party and you get crazy?
Oh, we throw back some tequila, we talk about old times, and we get to know each other a little better. What do you think you do with a girlfriend? What do you do when you go out with your girlfriends? You know what? As a matter of fact, she happens to be here tonight.
Madonna is here.
That's right. Well, would you like to meet her?
I don't know. It's up to me?
I think it is up to you.
Well, sure.
Old gap tooth.
oh yeah. See how they're matching matching outfits. See this?
No, you what? It's my
No, baby. I came through with the goods.
She's very territorial.
Chairs
nice
here.
to meet you. Thank you very much for being here.
That girl.
I hope you mean that.
No, what do you mean? Of course I mean that. It is nice to meet you, and it's
Isn't
nice
she
to.
delightful and charming?
Well,
and
if you
handsome?
shut up, you'd find out. What? You know, it was about a year ago. I was in Italy the same time you were in Italy. I have a great story about being in Italy there with you.
You have a great story?
Yeah, about you were working there and I was on vacation. It's a wonderful story. Maybe.
So far, I'm fascinated. I'm riveted to this story.
She hates it when people don't talk about her
Yeah.
in front of her.
Oh,
go ahead.
You don't have that problem much.
Not much.
Woo!
I love you, Sandra.
I love you, baby.
I can't believe you're wearing the
think-
same thing I'm wearing.
Yeah.
I
What a
know. I can't
coincidence.
imagine how it happened. But
I tell you what, can you hang around for a second because we have to do a commercial and then we'll be right back. And then
You're
we can
really
talk.
pushing your luck.
Oh, shut up. Then we can do whatever you want to do. Well, we'll stay right on
So, that's kind of a look at an era.
Stage right on. Oh, say hello. Okay, all right, that's it. Now go back to your seat. Our next guest is one of the most famous and successful models in the world today. Get ready, sir. Get your little $2 Cubs hat on. And Friday night, tomorrow night, she will be on this very network right here hosting her own Intel swimsuit special. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the program leggy supermodel Elle McPherson. Here she is. Too close. Don't worry. All right, now be careful. Come here. Come on. Come on. Say hello to Elle. Just say hello. Just say hello. Okay. All right, that's it. Now go back to your seat. I'm sorry about that. See, the problem is, tonight is nickel beer night. Wow, you know, I think tonight you look better than I've ever seen you looking. Yeah, you look great. What? How have you been? What have you been doing this spring? What's new? Everything must be great in your life now.
Everything is well, summer's coming, which is always the best thing.
What do you do for the summer? Do you take the summer off or do you work during the summer?
I try not to work too much during the summer. I like to get away if I can, maybe in Europe.
All right, and to Europe. So when you would go to Europe, what describe for us what a little trip to Europe might be for you?
Little trip to Europe. Well, it depends.
Leggy supermodel.
I like that intro. With a short skirt, especially for women.
Ooh, do that again.
Be very careful here.
Yeah, I know you do. I know because last time.
Last time.
Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember that, Paul?
Oh, man, please.
Talking about underwear, I did bring some nice silk boxes for you.
Oh, you have some undershorts for me, Living? Oh, all right. Perhaps over dinner. I'll be happy to. Thank you very much. So anyway, you're maybe off to Europe. So what would that be? Give us a little glimpse into your private life as you're traveling around Europe. Are you mobbed wherever you go?
Oh, absolutely. Mobbed. I have the people screaming after you.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. In Europe, it's nice. It depends if I feel like going for a very kind of Euro trashy summer. I could go to like Saint-Tropez and have lunch at Club 5
Oh.
Go on. You're not really interested in this.
No, I know. I'm fascinated by this. Yeah, because I'll never get to the club.
I'll see if I can get you a table.
I had lunch at Lerman de Sanco a couple of weeks ago.
Cheap Mexican joint just down the road.
He's Japanese.
Still the same. Foreign.
And when you go there, are you with a traveling companion? Do you bring along some sort of little pasty-skinned toady boy or something?
I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. And how long would you be gone? Like a month?
A couple of weeks.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's great.
So this is all. So the way I am seeing these are like construction. This is a constructed show. She's performing. She's an artist, and part of her art is her own physical body, and she's a performer. And in a way, he's performing the role of this kind of aw shucks idiosyncratic host, trying to be every person behind the chair. The set's constructed, it's related to other arts, it's related to arts. I mean, this is real life. It's actually, she's herself talking about things in her life that she has done as he is. He didn't go to as good a restaurant as she went, He says, I went to this crummy restaurant. You went to this place in Saint-Tropez, and then they're talking about things ostensibly from their life. So in that sense, it's real. But it's being performed, And it's interesting to think about what would happen if in a outside of the time frame of that we're in now, because we're time traveling. So right now, we're in 1991. What would happen if a group of people wanted to take these genres and these things that were created, these genres, these styles, and apply it to business and politics, and like run governments this way? I mean, that's a thing people might have wanted to do, or are doing. So it's very important. It's like if you read a novel. I mean, again, on some level, I hope that you read a novel, but I hope that when you are reading a novel, that you're aware that this is largely an invention. However true that novel may be to the author, it's not a literal. It's not like it's not like a congressional House of Representatives meeting. In that sense, it's not real. But it would be a very bad idea, I think, to try to conduct a corporation or a government or a nation as if it were a variety show. I'm just suggesting there that's as far as I'm going to take the metaphor, take the accusation, if that's what it is. So that's an interesting thing. So I don't know if we have any more clips. We're getting. Do you want to see Arsenio Hall battle far left?
Say hello.
Far
Okay.
left.
All right, that's it. Now go back.
Queer Nation. It's an interesting clip. I had wanted to.
This is macho.
I had wanted to show Arsenio Hall and Bill Clinton playing saxophone. Of course, that's been overused, but I thought it was interesting. The little Arsenio has a show. Actually, I like Arsenio a lot. In this show, he's an activist is confronting him. Why aren't there gay people on your show? And Arsenio handles it. It's a group called Queer Nation. Queer Nation is a group a queer liberation activist group in response to their perceived conservatism or insufficient radicalism of ACT UP. They formed Queer Nation. and some of the disrupting the show. So interesting to.
Why don't I have any gay guests on my show? Wait, I'm sorry. Why don't I have any gay guests on my show? Well, there are a lot of gay guests who really don't like to talk about their sexual preference, so we don't know whether they're gay or not. You know? Now, this ain't Merv. You didn't think I'd run from this, did you? This ain't Johnny. I ain't gonna run from it. I'm gonna deal with it.
It's Queer Nation.
Who would you like me to have on my show that's gay that maybe I haven't had? Who? I don't know Gus Van Sant, but I know Elton John. He's been here and he's rocked the house.
Okay, so this is a typical of commercial entertainment. I mean, it's actually a definitional. So a commercial entertainment point of view, like Arsenio's point of view, Elton John is what's great because that's what you know and that's what you listen to. We had him on here, Rocket Man. From that point of view, Gus Van Sant is a non-entity making these weird movies like Drugstore Cowboy. Who's that? I don't know what that is. And even when Gus Van Sant makes something that everybody knows what it is, like To Die For with Nicole Kidman, even that's still obscure in a way, right? Because it's like it would be, you know, it's like. So this is him saying Elton John rocks out. I liked him. I guess implication would be that Elton John's gay. And they go on to talk about why don't you have Larry Kramer on? And we don't. Who's Larry Kramer? They don't know the Normal Heart, you know. And if the Normal Heart does play on television, directed by Mike Nichols and cast with Bruce Davidson and whoever the hell else was in it, it's on. It's not on one of the big three. It's on HBO or it's on, you know. Or Harvey Fierstein. All those people I met. I met Fierstein. I interviewed. I think I interviewed once with my dad, Larry Kramer. Around the time of the Normal Heart, I think we did all these things a long time ago. Back then, anyhow. But from the point of view of Arsenio Hall, it's when you get as famous as Elton John, then we'll have. When you're an Elvis, when you're a Taylor Swift, then we'll have you on our show. You know, you're not famous enough because, you know, it's interesting to see.
Okay. What? When Harvey has something I'm interested in, I'll bring him on the show. But this is my show, okay? This is my show. This is my show. You understand? This is my show.
So that's
my show, man.
That's a shade of things to come in the 2000s. It's a little ahead of its time. And again on the show, I'm not taking any positions. I mean, I did say I did like Arsenio Hall. Some of my favorite episodes of Arsenio Hall, Candice Bergen, Jackie Bissett, other people he's had on I've liked. I obviously was never a member of a group like Queer Nation, although I had many, many friends who were active both in ACT UP and in Queer Nation. As I said, I interviewed Larry Kramer and Harvey Fierstein. Of course, I saw Torch Song Trilogy opening weekend with my dad back in the 80s. That's what they're talking about. But again, the downside of all the material on today's episode, if there is a downside, is that because it's for quote unquote everybody or everybody adjacent, it's not going to take into account everything or every sensibility or every value. It doesn't. Necessity can include a lot of things, and many people hate television. They hate things like this precisely because it's not like Queer Nation. Why don't you have this on? And Arsenio would say, well, you get your own show and have Harvey Fierstein on, right? That's the debate, at least in this terms of 1991, 90, 89, 90, those years. If I'm going to do another aesthetics series, another aesthetics episode, all about aesthetics, This is 18. If number 19, I talk about something very obscure. Let's say I do a show and I talk about, I don't know, what's obscure? Oh, Stan Brakhage movie. Experimental filmmaker. If I do an episode on Stan Brakhage, that's entering, you know, a different, you say milieu, a different sensibility. Or anything else. Or John Cage, you know. John Cage's music does not sound like, well, it doesn't really sound like anybody's music. And often doesn't even sound to many ears like it is music. But John Cage, of course, is not Taylor Swift, is not Arsenio Hall, is not David Letterman, is not Gary Shandling, is not JohnnyCarson. There are different people doing different things. And all of this does, as I said, raises philosophic questions over what is art for? I mean, for example, there are, not like your host, not like me, there are people that don't consider any of this art. By definitionally, it can't be art because it's not Samuel Beckett. Because it's not Vermeer, you know, it's art, and that's it. Only Vermeer is art. And so it's made for a mass audience, and it's made to be consumed while drinking a beer or laying in bed or in the middle of having sex with somebody and late at night. And so it's you know, that's to use the word art as not descriptively but normatively or as evaluation. You know, is it good, shall we say? But you know, we could talk about everything that we've seen today is in a way good, in that it's entertaining, it's well done. The people that we saw today, including even Arsenio Hall going at it to Representative Queer Nation in the tight body shirt and the Wallace mustache there, and the protester, could all be said to be good. And that it's reflecting the human experience in the final analysis, and it comes from people's insides. None of these people are robots or computers. They're human beings, and they have feelings. And part of their feelings that they have is to invent shtick. Charles Grodin will say, well, talk to Johnny Carson. Let's give them something to fight. Let's create a fighter. That's something they're creating out of their own acting chops, their performer chops. And they present it to millions of people on this box called television. So that's understanding when we're reading anything, looking at anything, what it is that we're dealing with, and what we're looking at and listening to. Kind of everything in its own level, the spirit of everything on its own level. A lot of this stuff we've looked at today, I mean, I know some of it. A lot of it, in some senses, is unfamiliar to me. Because for 15, 20, 30 years, I was too busy. If I was playing gigs at night, which are at night, or I was going out with people, usually going to the theater. When you can't be in two places at once, so you're not going to be at home. So I didn't spend a lot of time in my home unless it was very late at night, 2 a.m., 1 a.m. I might be home, but not at 11 necessarily, or 10. And it all depends on what your lifestyle is. My lifestyle is profoundly different now because I live in a small rural town in the American South. So there are not 10 movie theaters. There's 2 movie theaters, or, it's different. I'm in an era in which I'm going to be careful what I'm going to say. I'm going to say some pretty bold things where, well, the show Severance is Ben Stiller's show, is as good, if not better, than any of the Oscar releases in theaters this year. And it's a TV show. on Apple TV. I'm also rewatching The West Wing. Quentin Tarantino is on record as saying his favorite TV show of all time was The West Wing. He claims to have watched it 3 or 4 times just to study the dialogue, Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. And I'm watching it now, and I can tell you it's quite a show. It's up there with anything in live theater. Certainly, we're talking about just in terms of just character writing and also representation of an era and how politics was conducted and crafted in a particular era. Most interesting. That's television. You know, so QT, Mr. Tarantino might be right about that. His love for The West Wing might have something to it. But you know, at the end of the day, you like what you like, and you can't help generally what you like or what you love, or for that matter, what you dislike or hate. And that's, as they say, the end of discussion. So it's 90 minutes now. We've done the show. I hope you have a decent, safe weekend, good weekend, maybe a great weekend, and that you will, of course, now you don't set your clock ahead because a computer does that for us, right? I think, or some of us on Sunday. And thank you for joining us. Subscribe to our show. Like us and subscribe to us. Join. There's not anybody really doing, that I'm aware of, this kind of thing. Bringing these disparate things together, television and avant-garde and music, and talking about David Letterman, doing close analysis of David Letterman and Johnny Carson as we did today, and Arsenio Hall and Queer Nation, Act Up, and Elle Macpherson, and all the rest of it. So it's been fun, and I hope you have a great weekend. And thanks for coming out.